Hashtag Doggy People with Phil Lassman.
Hello, it's me, and welcome to Hashtag Doggy People, the show about life, love, and dogs. Now, does anyone out there know what these letters mean? Well, I can tell you, but you don't have to worry. Why? Because my guest this week is the perfect person to explain. Please welcome the fab founder of the C.A.R.I.A.D campaign. It's Linda Goodman. Hello, Linda.
Hello, Mr. Lassman. How are you?
Oh, I'm very well, thank you, and I'm really pleased to have you on the show. I'll tell you something. I'm actually relieved to have you on the show because my wife Ira, she heard you speak, quite recently. She's been going on and on. You've got to get Linda Goodman on the show. She's an absolute top animal welfare campaigner. What do these letters stand for?
First of all, C.A.R.I.A.D is a Welsh name, and it means beloved. The initials actually mean care and respect includes all dogs. We decided on this name, one, because my dog at the time was called C.A.R.I.A.D, and also because we wanted to include breeding dogs as being in all dogs. They'd always been so overlooked and invisible.
When did you first discover your love for dogs, Linda?
Oh, well, my first memory of a dog would probably be at 18 months old, because we went to visit a friend and they had a Great Dane. And this Great Dane, called Caesar, I remember so well, frightened the life out of me just because of the sheer size. I had to wait until I was a teenager until we had a family dog. And that was mostly because we didn't have a house. We'd lived in flats, apartments until that time. And my mother was adamant that until we had a garden, that we wouldn't get a dog. Our first dog was a Boston Terrier called Pepper, and he was an amazing dog. Very funny character, but he kind of was like my sibling because I'm an only child. So I've always considered them to be part of the family.
I'm always really interested to ask people when they first discover their love for dogs, because it normally happens, when you're really, very, very young, and then you can't imagine life without a dog. Why do you think, Linda, that dogs are so popular?
We chose to actually domesticate dogs, tens of thousands of years ago. They had, in a way, they have developed to please us. I think it's because they understand us better than any other animal on the planet. That isn't me just saying that. That's science.
No.
That is proven. They actually get us.
Why did you decide to actually become this amazing animal welfare campaigner that I know you are?
I really started campaigning as a child, to be honest.
Did you, as a child?
Yeah, really, because my mother was very much into, righting wrongs when it came to animal welfare. She was really way, way ahead of her time. We used to campaign against the Canadian harp seal slaughter. I used to make my own T-shirts, anti-fur T-shirts at about 10 years old. I would get upset about things, and she would say, right, well, if this upsets you, let's try and do something about it. And my father was very much the same, an animal lover as well. But Mum had more time to do these things with me, and it just felt natural. It felt right. As the time progressed, and in my 20s and 30s, I campaigned for better treatment of cetaceans, whales and dolphins. I actually really wanted to be a marine biologist, but probably wasn't smart enough. And then it went on to Western lowland gorillas, and then 10 years in horse welfare, and then finally this. So many different species of animals. I think people get confused that if you're campaigning about a specific atrocity, for example, that you don't care about all the others. You generally care about every one of them.
Why are campaigns and people like you, campaigners, actually needed? Why do we have to have people to go out and do it? Why doesn't it happen naturally and normally?
Because we don't live in a perfect world. The other reason, I think, is because, and some people say charities exist to solve the problems that governments won't. But then you have campaigners who I think then try to solve the problems that some charities won't.
I know from speaking to other campaigners that the road is not a smooth one for you. It's quite rocky. It's filled with hurdles, and I always quite interested to know, what are the frustrations for you as animal welfare campaigners? What are your particular experiences in terms of being frustrated in trying to achieve your aim?
How long have we got? I think, firstly, when we started out doing this, we thought that the problem lay with the council. As it progressed, then it became the governments, and certainly legislation needed to be revised. Now, I would say the greatest frustration we have is the public.
Why do you say that?
For years, we've said, don't buy puppies at Christmas, don't give them as gifts, always see the mother. Trying to get that message through to people who don't want to hear that message, basically. They just want a puppy. It has been hugely challenging, but then we had the pandemic and literally everything seemed to go out the window. And we've gained 1.5 million new dog owners in the space of 12 months. And a lot of those were puppies. And of course, that brings us on to the fallout that we're now experiencing of the people who bought them as a quick fix solution to a problem that was transient. I have something here I'd just like to read. It was from a rescue recently, if that's okay. It may not make for a bedtime story, but it's very relevant to dogs and rescuers alike. After the year we've all had, we all knew that there would be a massive fallout for many dogs. All the rescues we work with or know well are stretched to capacity, not with the numbers, but with the dogs that all need work and help looking for forever homes. We have had dog after dog with varying degrees of separation anxiety, behavioral problems with other dogs, with strangers, not socialized, not lead trained, not ever seen a vet, not ever been run free, and not even walked. In the last 3 weeks alone, we've taken dogs of 6 and 7 months old, already fear reactive, resource guarding, dog reactive, and more. Dogs with severe medical problems left untreated, and the list goes on. It's heartbreaking for all of us and demoralizing too. Our team are fabulous, as are so many other rescues, but the level of what is essentially abuse and neglect is unprecedented. I think we've seen quite a few programs on the news lately highlighting this incredible problem that everybody predicted. To think that dogs in not even 12 months old are coming in now damaged it's a disgrace. So yes, the public have really created a terrible problem.
We're slightly at odds with some of what you're saying there. I mean, it's true that the dogs that C.A.R.I.A is seeing and the other rescues are seeing are, damaged dogs, which is absolutely inexplicable sometimes. But the volume of dogs is not there.
That's what they've said, actually. The press, the volume isn't there. Yes, you're right. There isn't a huge volume of dogs in rescue. The dogs that are coming in, however, need more help and care and expense spent on them.
Yes, that's true.
Any time we've ever known.
Yeah, agree with you on that. We see hundreds of campaigns asking us to sign petitions and retweet hashtags. But what I'm curious to know, and I'm sure all of you out there are too, how many signatures does it actually take to be successful and get a campaign off the ground?
So there's lots of different types of petition out there. So you've got change.org, you've got government e-petitions and individual petitioning of governments to devolved nations as well. The national government e-petition needs 100,000 signatures. The funny thing is, I think that it became too easy for people to get. It's hard work, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But too many people were managing to get 100,000 in the 12 months that they originally allocated. And so they changed it to 6 months. That will hopefully trigger a debate in Parliament. The e-petition, the government e-petitions are usually the only ones that will do that. The other campaigns on other platforms tend to be excellent for awareness raising, and also because you can sign them from anywhere. So you get the numbers. It just doesn't mean that governments will pay much attention or take them seriously.
We know that responsibility for animal welfare legislation it's recently been devolved to each nation within the UK. I mean, what do you think, Linda? Do you think that's a good thing, a bad thing? And do you think it's actually worked?
It's like saying dogs in one country matter more than another, because all laws don't happen at the same time. Lucy's Law is a pretty good example of that. It's not happening here until September, and Scotland is the same, and Northern Ireland will be after that. So the dogs in England benefited more from that first, if you like. It's difficult because there are different issues in each country that need to be addressed. But we have soft borders. So if you change a law in one country, in England, for example, it kind of helps if we don't have to campaign and lobby 4 times. Obviously, that's really exhausting.
Is this your professional job? Do you do it every single day?
I do it every single day. We've always been volunteer based. We don't get paid. So many more platforms came along selling dogs and puppies. The market just became really hard to control, impossible to control. So, yeah, I mean, really, it should be a full-time job. We could have achieved a lot more.
Now, puppy farming, what's your opinion of it, and will it ever end?
What I think is the greatest frustration for most people, firstly, when we started out campaigning, we had to explain what it was. And I'm pretty sure that everybody kind of gets it now. And if they don't, where have you been? The issue for us is, why is it even legal? And I think that people still kind of think, oh, puppy farms are illegal. They're not illegal. They're perfectly legal if they're licensed. So here's the thing, we have the same number of licensed and unlicensed illegal operators going on. They're very hard to locate. Nobody was prepared to make puppy farming illegal. So the only thing left to us was to stop the route to trade, because so many of them, being invisible and both legal and illegal, used dealers, sold to pet shops, that the breeding dogs were just constantly overlooked, invisible. So the Where's Mum campaign was incredibly important to highlight why you need to go and see the puppy, where it was born, with the mother, you know, and see the environment.
Should we be lawfully imposing limited dog numbers on commercial breeders?
Yeah, I believe we should. You can only keep so many dogs in your own home, really, realistically, and look after them. The rest end up in kennels, and a lot of people don't have a problem with that. But I would just ask anybody who doesn't have a problem with that, how long would you leave your own dog in a boarding kennel? If people would think more about that, they would think, God, no, it's appalling. Well, how can these dogs be allowed to spend their lives, you know, incarcerated?
When I was a nipper, you had to have a license to keep a dog. Should the UK, I mean, it's this daft question that I'm asking you now, is should the UK reintroduce the dog license? Of course, they blooming well should reintroduce it, but I'd like to ask you, why specifically do you think that would be a brilliant idea?
Well, there's quite a few reasons. So I was brought up in Australia till the age of 20. We have mandatory dog licensing.
Still got your little twang there.
Oh yeah.
Straight. And it suits you. I think it's very attractive, actually. Microchipping
has turned into a complete disaster. It would be an excellent backup to have those details as if you were paying your council tax. So it was always attached to your address. It would be much easier for people to have their dog come back if they were lost or stolen. But for another reason, I think if people had to consider that was a responsibility that they would definitely have. It's not about the money. It doesn't have to cost a fortune. There would be some kind of, oh, okay, something to think about before I go diving in without, you know, thinking nothing other, I want that puppy now.
Yep.
So, and also because as a kind of revenue generator for additional dog wardens, which is something that we are so lacking in the UK now. If you can't afford £20 a year or whatever it is to have a dog license, when you're paying thousands of pounds for a puppy, you know.
The prices of puppies, what do you think about that?
Yeah.
Nuts, isn't it?
It's also one of the reasons that dog theft, increased to the state that it's in. So if people were prepared to pay out those kinds of amounts of money, then the value of the dog increased generally as a species, and therefore it was a more lucrative and desirable item, if you like. So Nick, again, I come back to the public. If they had just not done that kind of, oh, I'm bored, the kids are bored, we'll get a puppy. A lot of people just did that. A lot of people also, sadly, decided to get rid of their older dogs to get a puppy. And that was just heartbreaking.
I'd like to talk to you for 2 minutes about pet theft. I mean, you just raised the subject. Now, you know, I don't know if you've been watching the series, but I'm really one of the guys I absolutely salute is Daniel Allen, Dr. Daniel of Pet Theft Reform. And, you know, in my opinion, they're actually leading the whole fight back. Who do you think are the heroes of pet theft or for fighting back on it? And who do you think are the absolute offenders? Who are the people that are letting us down?
Got to start with Debbie Matthews.
Debbie, of course.
Absolutely.
With Daniel.
The most brilliant woman. And Dan together. Yeah, Dan is an amazing man. I think that the heartbreak of having to do 3 petitions that reached over 100,000 and to continue to not get a suitable response from government, you know, that's how hard it is to be a campaigner. It's a much broader issue than just pet theft. It's about acknowledging that animals are not things. And once government starts to do that, you know, everything else will have to change. And when you say who are the villains in it, I would look towards the industries that use dogs in animal experimentation.
A few months ago, I likened on Twitter the theft of a dog to being exactly the same as the kidnap of a human.
Totally
because you know yourself, a dog is a member of the family, and a dog is a living, breathing, it's got a beating heart, it's got a personality. This rise in dog theft is because of their value, as we were talking a few minutes ago about the value of puppies. That, you know, before they used to nick Rolex watches for $3,000 a pop. Now it's a puppy, which is a much easier thing to nick. There should be a much heavier penalty because, as you quite rightly said, things have changed. Everything's changing. I mean, the whole world is changing, isn't it? Before our very eyes.
If we lost our beloved companions, and some people who have relied on them as emotional support dogs have had theirs stolen, the devastation to the person, to the family, it's impossible to measure, and it's impossible to quantify because so rarely do they get them back. So you are constantly left with what's happened to the one great companion in my life. I'm never going to see them again. I don't know if they're dead or alive. It's turning into violence. We've got women being thrown to the ground. We've got men being attacked at knife point to steal the dogs they're out walking with. And I tweeted not that long ago, will it take someone to be killed for their pet before this is taken seriously? And I feel we are very close to that happening.
Where do you sit on the great Greyhound Racing debate? What do you feel about that?
Here's a confession I've never aired before. My father, who was 30 years older than my mother, so basically of a completely different generation, he was actually born in 1909. He loved gambling and he had greyhounds. And as a very small child, I used to have to go out with them to the trials and the tracks like 4 o'clock in the morning. And I hated it because when we had a dog that was called Bonnie, she was a beautiful black greyhound, and she was the breeding dog. And every time she had a litter, I have to remember I was about 7 years old at this point. I wasn't allowed to play with the puppies, and he would keep a puppy from each litter. And at one point, I was given, to keep me quiet, I think, I was given a beautiful brindle greyhound that I called Tiger. Very original name for a child to give. I wasn't at this particular trial one morning, but we got a phone call and there'd been a dreadful accident. And Tiger had been, skittled basically, run into the central barrier and practically cut in half. I mean, I was hysterical. Everyone in the family went absolutely nuts. And my dad said he would never involve himself in this industry ever again. And he became so anti-greyhound racing
Wow.
in the end. So that was my childhood experience of greyhound racing. It was horrendous.
Dramatic.
It really was. So yeah, I cannot wait for it to be banned. I think any time that we use animals in a gambling capacity, you immediately open them up to corruption. And it's not even the dogs that actually get to race. The ones that are born that don't make the cut, they're just killed. When you've had a greyhound on your sofa and you know what a great big couch potato they really are,
They are.
there is no place for greyhound racing.
On a lighter note, I think we need to lift the mood here a little bit. What hobbies do you have outside of campaigning?
Do you love painting? I don't have enough opportunity to do it
Right.
at the moment. There are very few things that bring me any joy these days, which is a sad thing to say, but you know, when you're a campaigner and if you've been into puppy farms and if you've rehabilitated dogs that are so damaged, it's hard to see joy in life. My joys are being with my dogs, chocolate, and I don't know, a good film.
What did you think of the BBC series, Pooch Perfect?
Oh my God.
Did that tickle your fancy, Linda, or not?
Oh my God, okay. You know what? I watched it. I watch programs that I know that will inflame me because I need to know what's going on. It's important to basically bring people to account if they screw up. But I mean, the BBC have done a really good job lately, a few really unfortunate choices. But that one, I think, was a disaster for people like me. It was very hard to watch people who were up against the clock in a studio with dogs being kind of treated as objet art, this creative grooming, which I find so offensive. Putting colors on dogs, putting glitter on them, painting their nails, doing all this kind of thing. It's like, for God's sake, dogs are beautiful. If you want to do creative stuff, do it on a canvas, but stop messing around with dogs. And it, you know, it gave a really bad message, I think, to the public. But the red line for me was in one episode where they actually used an ex-breeding puppy farm dog. That was a disaster. And if anyone wants to watch that episode back, I really think you should. The dog was terrified. The dog was trying to bite the groomer out of fear. And all that happened at the end was one of the judges, who was just said, you've shown your skills at handling a difficult dog. I thought the dog wasn't difficult. The dog had already been to hell and back. It was a horrendous series to watch.
The only thing a dog should be covered in is mud. Mud and that's what I say. If you've seen this show before, you'll know what I'm reaching for right now. It is, in fact, a humongously big bell, because we want to try and see if we can raise a few pounds for all the charities that are struggling. Now, I want you to look into camera and please, you know, tell us first of all, who are you going to nominate for your charity, for the charity appeal today?
My appeal is for a wonderful charity called Friends of Animals Wales. For many, many years, they have been rescuing and rehabilitating ex-puppy farm breeding dogs and puppies that were unsaleable, who would have been drowned or shot. I've adopted so many dogs from them over the years, and they do the most incredible work. They're all unpaid volunteers. Because we have changed the law and that the banning of third-party selling is going to be around the United Kingdom and in Wales, we desperately need for them to raise enough money to open a rehabilitation centre and rescue in Wales for the multitude of these dogs that are going to come out, flooding out of these puppy farms that are no longer able to do what they've been doing. It's so urgent, I can't even tell you. So please, please, please dig deep and help us, because we're going to be working with them as well. Whatever you can afford, please send it their way. These dogs need that chance of a second chance at life, the life that they should have always had. that was stolen from them.
So we're going to try and do our very best for Friends of Animals Wales, ladies and gentlemen,
Thank you,
this
Phil.
week.
Really appreciate that.
No, it's nothing to do with me. I mean, I'm just the messenger. It's the audience out there that we want to reach. I'm fresh out of questions now. I think you've been absolutely amazing.
The only thing I'd like to say is to thank every campaigner out there who's working round the clock, usually for no money, because they believe in something. I hope that more people will be inspired to campaign for better justice, rights, for whatever is disturbing them in their lives, whatever they feel is wrong.
You're a lovely woman, Linda. I'm absolutely thrilled to have met you, and you're doing an amazing thing. Linda, thank you so much for your time today. And once again,
it's been a joy, Phil. It really has.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much. And it's the same with you. You're a lovely lady. You stay safe and good luck with the next campaign, and we'll be back to check on you again. Thank you so much. God bless you. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, Phil. Bye.
Bye. So that's the end of our show, and I thought it went well. Thanks to Linda Goodman of the C.A.R.I.A.D campaign. And now it's time to have your say. Tweet me, email me, heckle me, whatever takes your fancy. Just please get involved. Thanks for watching, and join me next time when we'll have some more #DoggyPeople. Stay safe, love your dog, and cheerio.